Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do,
Just what to do, just what to do.
if what you're feeling is really true,
Is it really true? Is it really true?
just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Geri Petito Show. Guys, everyone and anyone who knows me knows I am the author of I'm Not an Addict, I'm Just an Ass. I'd rather be a smartass than a dumbass. Because, guys, 32 years ago I was a dumbass. But today, through the grace of God, 32 years later, I can honestly say now I'm a smartass. Yes, the word ass is in the Bible at least 40 times, and it means donkey, and that's what I was. I'm saying all that to say this. You know, we've all had the roughest few years of our lives all over the world, guys, not just here. And unfortunately, some didn't make it. A lot didn't make it, including family and friends of mine. So, you know, everyone out there who's struggling, I want you to know you do not have to feel alone. I'm a nutritional health coach. I'm a recovery coach. All my services to you are free. You can go to my website, www.geripetito.com. All my pages are there. You could even order the book from there. You could go to Amazon, Barnes & Nobles. You can go right to Simon & Schuster's bookstore, Archway Publishing. It's on BAM. It's everywhere. And guys, if you truly, truly, truly cannot afford my book and really think you need it, reach out to me about that as well, please. Okay? And also go to the Geri Petito Show YouTube channel and subscribe. A lot of cool things are happening. So, a couple of my favorite topics when I do shows, of course, music, right? Because music saves lives, right? But it's also nutrition and recovery. I've got an incredible guest with me tonight. His story is off the charts. I want to introduce to everyone SCOTTY Stuch. Say hello.
What's up?
So, this guy right here interviewed me, and now it's my turn, okay, to interview him. He does a show as well called Sober Sit Down with Scotty, right?
Well, it was Sober Sit Down with Scotty Stuch as of recently, but we haven't actually released our first episode yet. I changed it to Stepping Up with Stuch to give it a more generalized baseline because we had a couple different guests and everything like that coming on, and some stories were not 100% addiction related. They
Okay.
were addiction, but to a non-substance based addiction, like people that, you know, once lived a life of crime. They were addicted to that camaraderie, that sort of lifestyle. Moved into better lives for themselves after, you know, being reformed and going to prison and stuff. So I wanted to generalize my audience more, and I wanted to do more of a motivational, positive vibes, you know, enough of the excuses type of content that we're going to start pumping out, and going to do more just generalized stuff rather than people that see Sober Sit Down. They kind of get like they're people that aren't from like addiction or aren't struggling with addiction or aren't interested in addiction. It automatically, the title alone, I believe, veers people away from actually watching the content. So we just thought it was a good marketing idea to just change it up a little bit. You know what I mean?
So, I agree with you to a point. Here's my idea. Maybe every, couple of months you still do one of your, sober sit downs.
Which we could, yeah. I mean, that's something that's definitely that's based around that type of subject. I believe that would be great.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good idea. But because I still do, like, you know, every once in a while, like I'll chop it up with, you know, me and a guy who was one of my first guests, Larry Mazza. We sometimes do a segment together. We did about 5 or 6 of them. It's called The Life 101 with Stuch and Larry Mazza. And because a lot of my guests were people who previously were in the life of organized crime. So a lot of people were starting to get the misconception back when I
Yeah.
first started that, is this a mob channel or is this a channel about addiction? Like, what is it? So to not confuse my audience, that's why I don't want to like just segregate my guest list. So
No.
when it came to more of the mob related stuff that I wanted to bring Larry on with, me and Larry did that kind of thing. And then Sober Sit Down still became more generalized. Like, as you know, you linked me up with a mutual friend of yours who's actually running for president of the United States.
Yep.
He really didn't have much of a addiction-based story. I mean, although his father, when he was coming up, his father was an abusive alcoholic, but that wasn't the point he was trying to get across with being a guest on my show.
Right.
So some people that would actually watch that would be like, what does this have to do with addiction-related stories, you know?
Right.
The gist of it is I'm sober, I'm sitting down, and I'm putting out a show, you know?
So, you know what? Actually, let me give a shout out to my sponsors, because Anthony is one of them. Okay? So, Anthony Hudson, presidential candidate 2024. His slogan is People Before Politics. Guys, he's just a regular truck driver from another state. And I believe 100% he can make a difference. We've got to get this guy noticed. I and Ruben here from Hamilton Radio, the producer, we met Anthony Hudson down at the borders. We went to Yuma, Arizona a few months ago, and we went to all the borders with him, the good and the bad and the ugly, baby. And we got to really know what this guy was about. So everybody, look him up, Anthony Hudson, okay? My other sponsor is Brian Buckinfuso. Everyone in Mercer County, New Jersey knows him as Bucky. He's a retired Robbinsville police officer, and he's running for Mercer County Sheriff. Okay, guys? So my sponsors here. Scotty, tell everybody a little bit about your story, personally.
Trying to think. So the first time like somebody's actually had me like started from the beginning, but I'll give like a rough
Yep.
like my upbringing and stuff like that.
Sure.
So I came from a good family, hardworking family. My parents started a business when I was first born. They opened up a restaurant and bar, and it really took off locally. They were like the first people in the area to originate bringing chicken wings to northeastern Pennsylvania. So they were like the innovators, because a lot of that was like in the early 80s. That was like an upstate New York type thing, and then it became eventually a nationwide craze. But my parents were like the originators of bringing them, like one of the originators in the area that we live in. We're about 2 hours north of Philadelphia. We're about 2 hours west of New York City. So Northeast PA, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton area. My parents were one of the first people to do that. They became very successful at a young age. They offered me a very good life when I was a kid. When I was first born, they were, flat broke. As time went on, they became successful. And then when I was about 13, they went through a pretty nasty divorce. And I've only had one sibling. That was my brother. We kind of got split up a little bit. Not me and my brother, but the family got kind of split up a little bit. My dad continued to live like a good lifestyle, nice house, a nice neighborhood. My mom had to move to pretty much the slums of the city because she went through a really bad mental breakdown, and she really, lost motivation to move forward with her life. She kind of got stuck at a standstill because of the bad divorce that they went through and everything like that. And, it was a life changer for her. So we split our time between, a good, nice, wealthy neighborhood and right into the inner city, in a slummy, not slummy, but, in the more, low poverty area town. So we got to see kind of both sides of the fence, and I learned how to adapt to both sides of the fence. And I didn't start drinking until I was probably about 20 years old. I was big into hockey. I was a big time hockey player, boxer, weightlifter. Stayed in my lane. I, that was when Fast and the Furious came out. So me and a lot of my friends, we were into souping up cars, and they called it cruising the Ave. Everybody would go show off their car, go try to meet girls, stuff like that. Back then there wasn't smartphones and stuff, so you kind of had to find your own fun. So when I was about 20, I was playing hockey, and I linked up, started going to this one gym, and, it was the club era, and, I started networking with some local people down there, and people inviting me out to hang out and stuff like that. And, you know, I was just starting to become a bartender for my father at his restaurant, and everything just kind of like started like moving towards like me following my path of not becoming a hockey player, of going towards going into the family business, and, you know, starting to meet people that it was regular just to be sitting in a bar during the day. And these people, you know, already were well established. They had money, they owned businesses, and they're sitting there drinking martinis at noon. I'm like, oh man, that's what I want to be when I get older. You know, I want to have money and I just want to relax and hang out in a bar all day. Little did I know, like, there's nothing really positive that came out of that. And most of the people that were in there were because they were battling problems of their own.
Wow.
You know, I started, you know, hanging out with a group of friends down at the gym, which I thought were my friends. You know, we started going out to nightclubs, and it was the club scene back then, early 2000s. You know, and I got bit by, you know, the alcohol addiction. As soon as I started doing it, it turned me into a person that, you know, I kind of like came out of my shell, you want to say.
Okay.
A lot of my previous emotions, I believe I held in when my parents went through their bad divorce, you know, watching my mother going through some mental health problems, not seeing her be the mom that I, you know, once remembered, and, you know, going through that whole thing. So I held in a lot of emotions, and I would tend to, like, when I would get blacked out drunk, I would cry for no reason a lot of times, stuff like that. And I think that was a lot of my held in emotions from years prior. And, you know, I had aggression. I had resentment towards other people. You know, a lot of the blame game. And then throughout the years, it just got worse and worse and worse with the alcohol addiction. I started dabbling with drugs, and they never got me like, you know, the alcohol did. The alcohol became a serious problem. And then I just celebrated on this Sunday 4 years of sobriety. The day it led me up to, you know, I got, you know, over the years, numerous arrests, numerous hospital visits, you know, waking up in hospital beds. You know, finally, that last time I went to the hospital, I just, you know, said to myself, that was it. Like, I have a 4-year-old kid. I can't keep letting her down, seeing me like that. I was a bum. I had no sign of direction.
Hold on. I have to interrupt because, wait, you skipped something. Okay, so you got married.
No, I didn't get married.
Okay, so you had a child.
Yeah.
How old were you when you had the child?
I was 30 when she was born.
So were you living with her mom?
Yeah.
So, okay, so you're living together and you still were drinking at that point then?
Yeah.
Okay, continue. I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was with her mom, and we were living together, and yeah, it was just like, you know, it wasn't like, I don't know, like, I was dealing with a lot of mental illness, I think, like a lot of resentment. My mom passed away in 2011. I'll rewind to that, actually.
Okay.
Because I was like trying to tell a story in a decent amount of time, because I can go on forever about it. But,
Right.
you know, a lot of it, so in 2011, my mom passed away. I was already pretty bad with the drinking at that point. That sparked it off to get even worse. I started getting out of hand. I didn't go to like counseling. My mom was only 48 when she passed away.
Wow.
I didn't go to any counseling or anything like that. I just increased my drinking, you know, just trying to escape reality. My work performances, I was working for my dad. You know, I was literally just going through the motions of life. I was drinking at work, I was drinking before work. I was drinking after work. Constantly getting sent home early. My weightlifting came to pretty much, you know, went from being a 6-7 day a week thing to maybe once or twice a week. Everything positive in my life just started fading away.
Gotcha.
And everything just became like, my daughter wasn't born until 2015. So from 2011 to 2015, nothing mattered to me. I just felt like I had nothing to look forward to. I was living life for the day. I didn't care about any health consequences, criminal consequences, like anything that was put in front of me. You know, I would take it on. I would, you know, there was a time that, like, Atlantic City, New Jersey is 3 hours away from where I live. The one time I, you know, got in a car at like 3 a.m. and came to at like 5 a.m, and I was on my way to Atlantic City, and it just was, there's like just a lot that was in between that time. I can get into like real details, but the gist of it was, it was 2015. My kid was born. I still was dabbling around. I would have like good and bad moments. Like I'd go a month, not do anything, and then the minute I picked up, it was like right where I left off.
Wow.
And I would just like go on these benders, and then give it like 2 weeks, go back on one, go off one, constant relapsing, just couldn't figure it out. And then that day in 2019 when I went to the hospital, it was the first time ever that I actually looked up at the ceiling, and I wanted to be sober for me. I was done doing it for my daughter, doing it for her mother, doing it for my father, doing it for my brother, doing it for any of my family or friends. At that point, I really had no friends left because I either had what I would like to call friends at that point in time. They all kind of faded away once I had a kid anyways, because I was no longer the guy supplying the party. I was the guy when we were younger that would have the big parties down my mom's basement. Everybody would want to be there. All those people kind of faded away. When I was making all fast money and quick money, they were the guys that wanted to hang out with me because I was paying the $300 bar tab, showing up with the nice flashy car, letting them borrow $200 t-shirts. And they were, those were the people that took advantage of me. And I see that now. And I'm kind of glad. At one time I had resentment towards a lot of them, but now I'm kind of glad I seen the true colors, because there's a lot of fake people out there, and it's good that you get to see who's really true and who's really not true. And it was God's plan for me to travel that road to filter out what I had to filter out with my life, and it made me a strong person who I am today.
Wow. I want to thank you for the honesty you just shared. Okay. I'm going to read a poem out of my book. There's going to be two of them I'm going to read pertaining to today's subject. But I want to read this one first because it's called Change Your Choice. Guys, you just heard Scotty's story, right? He decided once and for all he wasn't going to be doing it for anyone but himself. So that's what we have to do. We have to come to that decision. And until you do that, nothing's going to change. So I'm going to read this poem I wrote. It's called Change Your Choice. I had a life-changing moment that I knew had to be. The only way to change things was to first start with me. So I looked in the mirror and woke up one day and thought to myself I needed to pray. So I asked God to change me, to help me stay strong, to clean up my mess, to right what's been wrong. I cleaned up my diet, I cleaned up my room, I cleaned up all habits with this old dirty broom. I kept going forward and never looked back. I refused to derail, I stayed on the right track. I realized my worth and all that did matter through my selfish behavior, the lives I had shattered. I finally decided at 30 years old to stop abusing my body, my mind, heart, and soul. My life-changing choice that I had once made, over 32 years now, guys, my debt has been paid. So you read all my thoughts on how to stay clean. It's all or nothing, my friend. There's no in between. To live or to die is a choice you must make. Your life is not worthless, and you're not a mistake. One day at a time is the slogan you've heard. It works if you work it while applying His word. For you to get healthy, for your mind not to fail, escaping reality will keep you in jail. With addictive behavior, sex, drugs, food, or money, substituting addictions, now isn't that funny? I'm not an addict, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Everybody, I was so happy to hear what you said about you had to do it for you. Because everybody becomes very selfish, like all of us when we're in an addiction, right? That's first and foremost. And we don't even care about ourselves, let alone our family, our friends, right? Because if we cared about ourselves, we could never do what we've done to ourselves, right? How many years are you clean and sober now?
I just hit 4 years on Sunday. So 4 years, 2 days.
4 years this past Sunday?
Yeah, like 2 days ago.
That's right. So congratulations on your 4 years, baby. Very
Thank
cool.
you.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, are you still living with your child?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. So let's talk a little bit about that. So do you ever, still have thoughts about picking up? Do you have to struggle?
No, I actually went to a couple parties over the weekend, and people were engaging in alcohol. I mean, responsibly drinking, But like my first summer of sobriety, it almost felt like a punishment, and I started like having resentment, like saying like, I see people, like I was at Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, a month into my sobriety, and all I wanted to do was, go to a nightclub or go, but it was a family trip. And I'm saying like, like God, why wasn't I built? Like I was questioning, why wasn't I born being able to control myself? Why couldn't I just be like everybody else? Why couldn't I? And because like, and it's so funny because the farther you get into sobriety, the more all these questions that you ask yourself deep down, they get answered eventually.
Yes.
It's like, why am I going through this? Why am I doing this? I was working a dead end job, when I first got sober. So I was not only battling, my sobriety end of it, I was battling, here I am, college degree, I was a business owner twice. And here I am working, 2 minimum wage jobs and a side job. I was working like 3 jobs for like 2 years straight just to try and pull myself out of the debt and the bankruptcy that I put myself in because of being a business owner and having my addiction at the same time. And I literally put myself through hell for like 2 years and just never looked back. And I remember like, rather than looking at stuff as a punishment, I started looking at it as a gift. And I realized that if I can build the internal strength to not keep giving into this alcohol addiction, there's really nothing that anybody can put in front of me that I can't conquer.
So now that you're doing what you're doing, God has answered your questions. God knew, sometimes we have to go through things in order for us to help others that are going through things, right? So God knew what I was going to do with sobriety, and he also knew what you were going to do. So it's like we're giving God a gift back by helping others. And if you didn't go through what you were going through, Scotty, you wouldn't be able to do what you're doing today.
No, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about my previous life.
Okay? So he has a plan. He has a plan. So now, what do you see happening in your future?
Well, I finally found my niche. It took me like 5 years because, I after the restaurant industry, I got out of it because I just made a decision. I said to my dad, I can no longer be in this business, the family business anymore, because it's either I pick my life or the life that I was issued to live, like working in the family business and following his footsteps. I have to start making my story for my life. I got to start building my legacy. I'm in my mid-30s. All I'm doing is fulfilling your dream. I'm keeping your business going. But it's killing me with addiction. Every time I always say, like, you hang out in a barbershop, you get your hair cut. How am I supposed to run a bar when I'm an addict? You can't do it. And I learned that big word acceptance. I accepted that. I walked away from making really good money working for him to going and working 2 full-time minimum wage jobs just because I knew at the end of the day that would keep me out of trouble. It sucked, but I made the sacrifices and I did it, and it wasn't an easy decision to make. But then I started sitting there at these 2 jobs, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, I started listening in my earbuds. I started listening to some podcasts and stuff like that. It was like 2019, 2020. And then I just kept like trying to like say to myself, like, and this is where one thing I still have to work on is patience, because we still have that mindset of instant gratification. That's our addiction. You know what I mean? I kept saying to myself, how could I grow from the point I'm at by not losing more time of my life? Like, I can't just go back to school for 8 more years. I mean, I can, but do I want to put my life on hold like 6 years and go back to school and get like my master's degree and then move into something like that? So I looked in within realistic goals, what I could do for myself. And I started working at like small term goals every 6 months. Like I went out and got my CDL. I went out and I worked 2 full-time jobs while I got my CDL.
Awesome. Yay.
And then I got into the trucking industry, started doing that for a while, and just realized, like, I was making really good money, but I was missing my daughter growing up because I was never home. I was staying out on the road and stuff like that. And then now I just landed back in August. I landed an opportunity to become a car salesman. I feel like that's like my new addiction now. I love the car industry. I'm very passionate about it. I see a strong future in it for myself. I got really good at it statistically. I mean, the last dealership I was at, I was like the number one salesman for 6 months straight.
Heck yeah, baby.
So, and I just think it's my new addiction, and I want to start learning how to advance within. At the I want to get into the finance end of things with the car sales, but potentially move up into management with my previous like restaurant management skills. And just I feel as though I finally found my landing grounds and somewhere I can, go to work, be proud of what I do, not be ashamed of what I do, and actually have a sense of direction in my life.
So I'm very happy to hear all that. I'm going to read another poem for you, and then I'm going to ask you a couple more questions. All right. This one is called Face It Till You Make It. Okay? Fake it till you make it is a term heard so much. I don't really agree. It's living with a crutch. Not just for addiction, all life lessons, my friend. That's a sad in life to live until the end. I'd rather go by saying more real, face it till you make it, in spite of how you feel. We got to grow up, put our past behind. In spite of our hurts, there's greatness to find. I'd rather go through life smiling every day, holding up my chin, all good things to say. Positive thinking and actions likewise throw out a force up into the skies. What we project is what we will earn. Karma is real, we each have a turn. Your thoughts are wired to make you think. With what you do can make you sink. Keep all your thoughts uplifting and real. Feeding your mind crap destroys how you feel. So don't put out crap, it comes back to bite. Stand up real tall and just fight the fight. I promise you this, if you face all your fears, it might be quite scary, but will add to your years. One day you'll be happy with who you now are. Just look at me, I've really come far. I look in the mirror and like what I see, but most important, now I really love me. So what about you? Do you love you?
Yeah, I love the person that I became. I mean, it was the person that was always me deep down. It was just there was distractions that were in place.
Yep. So, Scotty, people that are listening right now, I know there's people out there who either need support for themselves or maybe for a family or friend, right? Family member or a friend. What would you say to encourage them?
Definitely don't give up real quickly. Some of our roads are longer than the next person's. Like, don't compare yourself to never compare yourself to people that you want to be. Like, let me rephrase that. So it's like, don't look at somebody else's life as they have like the perfect life, and you're like, oh man, why can't I have that? You could have it. You just might. Some people may have done so much destruction with their addiction. It's going to take longer to repair that road rather than just getting back on. Okay, I'm sober now a month. Everything should just fall back into place now. You got to be patient. You got to establish a plan. You got to make short-term, long-term goals for yourself. You definitely have to learn accountability and hold yourself accountable. If you're not meeting your goals, hold yourself accountable. Find things that you can do for good coping skills, like positive. Like what I'll do is, after I go to work all day, and I tend to get cranky if I don't. I like going to the gym still, even if it's at 10 o'clock at night. If I don't go, I try and hold myself accountable. Okay. Now I'm trying to, be a father. I'm trying to work 60 hours a week. I'm like, there's stuff that happens, you know what I mean? But try to eliminate excuses for yourself, because mentally that's just going to make you stronger. They say like a lot of these people are pumping out like motivation, all these like motivational quotes, motivational shorts people are putting on YouTube. But I'm starting to realize it's not as much motivation as it is discipline. Discipline is doing something you don't want to do, but pushing yourself to do it in order to seek a positive result. So like, yeah, you might not, you might commit to something like, I'm going to go to the gym every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, it might suck waking up every day at 5 in the morning, but you're building discipline within yourself, following a better diet. You yeah, it's probably not fun to not eat foods that taste so good, but if you want to get the results you want, you'll discipline yourself to stay away from the bad foods and the stuff that's not good for you. Just like us with, building discipline to not fall back into our shoes of, yeah, it was fun to get a buzz when I was sitting at a party and being around other people, but I disciplined myself to the point where I don't need to have a buzz to interact with other people at a party. Everybody in that party could be drinking but me, and I'm comfortable in my own skin. Like, where I used to get that social anxiety when I was younger and think everybody's judging you, think it's all about you. It's not about you. Nobody, it's just like that movie, The Bronx Tale. He says, nobody cares. Nobody cares what's in your glass. Nobody cares what you're drinking. Nobody cares what you're doing. Nobody even cares. There's some people that you might talk to at that party might not even care what you're saying. You worry too much about, that's that self-gratification that we seek in addiction that, we think that we have to prove ourselves to everybody. And, a lot of people, I get criticized sometimes for having my podcast by some people. They're like, why are you out trying to recruit people to become sober? I'm not trying to recruit anybody to become sober.
Wait, I have to interrupt. I'm sorry. Okay, I haven't interrupted you, right? I think one little time. First of all, if someone said to me, why are you trying to recruit people to become sober? I would say, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm never going to stop, not till the day I die. Why wouldn't I want to recruit people to become sober? That's insanity to me, Scotty. All right, I'm sorry. You just
I live in a very negative area. Very people, jealousy, hatred, enviness. And nobody will say it to my face. I'll just hear it secondhand. And, I don't try to recruit anybody to be sober. If you can go after work and have 2 drinks and, not have 2 drinks again for a month or whatever, right, that's fine. That's your business. I worry about my side of the street, but if you come on my side of the street and you want to know how to clean up your side of the street, right, I'll gladly give you the advice. But I wouldn't, every day I meet somebody new in my life. And today I had a new coworker. I just started this new car dealership 3 months ago, and nobody really knew me. And I posted on Facebook about my 4 years, about, I wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for support and, not giving up. And I did a whole thing on my Facebook about it and stuff, and about my anniversary, how important it is to me and stuff. And I had 2 separate coworkers come with me, and they were like, wow, I didn't even know you were, an active in addiction back in the day. And some people don't know. They look at it like, oh, why do you have to let everybody know you were an addict? Because somebody is out there quiet, struggling, like myself at one time, or somebody's out there saying, well, I'm bad, but I'm not as bad as him, or I'm not as bad as her. Start comparing yourself to other people. But if I'm out here telling my story and I'm bringing on people that tells their story, something might click to them. And if I can push them towards saving their life or making a better version of themselves, that's what I'm going to continue to do. If there's that person out there that wants to make those comments like, why are you out here trying to recruit people to be sober? I'm not trying to recruit anybody. If you want to drink a bottle of vodka at night, put yourself into a ditch, that's on you at the end of the day.
There you go. You know what? I remember years ago, many moons ago, they would tell everybody, oh, don't, when you go to meetings and all that, don't tell people who are in them, this is like anonymity, it's their secret and this and that. But then when you're drunk and stupid, the whole world knew you were drunk and stupid. That wasn't a secret.
That's why I stopped going to meetings.
Me too. I don't do meetings.
I don't follow any guidelines.
I don't either.
Follow. And you know what? A friend of mine actually told me a couple weeks ago, not a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, he had said to me, he accused me of being a dry drunk. And I said, a dry drunk is somebody that's pissed off the world because they're not drinking anymore. I'm not mad at all. I have a good life. I'm very, very fortunate. I'm very happy for the person I am. I'm very grateful for the small things in life. Sure, I do let some people get under my skin sometimes and I'll
that's normal.
Say something. But yeah, because I'm not numbing my feelings anymore. I have to face anger, sadness, happiness, all those feelings I now feel because I'm not numbing it with alcohol. So
This is crazy.
yeah, stuff is going to irritate me. I'm going to find some people obnoxious. I'm going to find some people that make me mad, make me upset. Not every day is paradise.
No.
So I don't believe in, I mean, I don't want to say it like that because there's some people that it saved lives for them, but I'm just going to put it this way. The AA end of it, I met a couple good people in the beginning, but there was a lot of bad people that were in it too, that were there because they didn't want to be there. They were there because they had to be there because they were trying to prevent themselves from going back to jail, or it looked good on a court report, or they were trying to make a family member happy. And I'm not going to judge them for that. They can do whatever they want to do. I met one or two good people in AA my first month I started, and I went to AA a couple times before I actually got sober, and it made me actually relapse because of some of the stuff that they instill in your head. It actually pushed me to want to drink more. And I'm not saying that to everybody. That's just me. I'm not saying AA is not the answer for other people. I'm on here just saying what worked for me, and what worked for me was keeping myself busy and trying to help others, and that's it.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. We still have about 15 minutes. Back then, okay, 1991, I believe it was, when I put myself in Princeton House. And I stayed there the full 31 days at the time, came out, did exactly what they said, Scotty. I went to meetings every day, got a sponsor, got my 30-day chip and said, I want to blow my brains out because this is not for me. And that's when I gave it to God, because I said, I cannot go to these meetings, listen to everyone's war stories, because it's all they talk about, and stand up there every day and say, hi, I'm Geri, I'm an addict. Oh, I've been sober 30 days. No, I'm not. I am no longer an addict. I am clean and sober. And that's when I really started changing my mindset, giving everything to God, and learning about what real sobriety was. When I wrote my book in 2016, I didn't know what I'm going to tell you now about Bill W. And when I revised my book in 2020, it's in there now. So Bill W., guys, if you don't know this, is one of the creators of AA. He had incredible intentions. He wanted to help all the addicts and all the alcoholics. He was suicidal. He was a mess. One of his friends who was a doctor, I'm not sure, but I believe the doctor was from another country, if I'm not mistaken. But he put him on niacin, the vitamin, the real one, the one that makes you purge and sweat. It cured him. And he approaches AA, but at that point it was too late because corporate America already infiltrated. And he said, we have to give all the addicts and alcoholics niacin. They said, shut your mouth or else we're keeping them addicts. So I'm not saying the people that go to AA know this. And I'm not saying, we have a lot of very good people in my township with the CARE program, and they, help a lot of people. And if you have no support system, guys, and AA or NA is helping you, please go. I'll never tell anyone not to. But keep this in mind. We bring the drugs in. We're keeping us addicts, and they're telling you to repeat that every time you go to a meeting to brainwash yourself into believing you're powerless over your addiction. You have to say those words as well. No, you're not. So, Scotty, you're right. I haven't been to a meeting in 32 years. I just can't.
And I know some very successful people that also are like me and you, that, yeah, they started going to meetings, but, I feel like going to meetings, you can, maybe get some tools to build the house. But at the end of the day, that's why I don't really even agree with rehab. Like, I think rehab will keep you sober for a short period of time, but the real work happens once you get out of rehab and you're walking the streets. If you don't change people, places, and things, I know a girl that kept relapsing because she refused to stop buying her groceries at the same grocery store she would buy her groceries at. And I was trying to help her out, and she's like, Scott, I can't stop relapsing. And I go, well, let me ask you. I'm like, where do you get your alcohol? And she's like, this local grocery store. I'm like, well, why don't you stop shopping there? Didn't they teach you in rehab about people, places, and things? Stop following your old routines. That's A1A. That's number one. You can't do. I couldn't in the beginning go hang out the same places I hung out. I couldn't hang out with some of the same people I used to hang out with. I had to make serious sacrifices. And
Yeah.
that's the only way. I mean, like, that's just like, you can disagree with me. I don't know how you feel about this subject, Jerry. And I mean, this is just me
Okay.
speaking on behalf of myself.
Go ahead.
One of the biggest excuses that I feel as though is like, whenever, people like myself, drinkers, would relapse, oh, well, I have a disease. I have alcoholism.
Oh my gosh, of course I agree with you. Go ahead. Continue.
That's not that.
It's not
that's a
true.
Disease that's it's a disease that's curable.
Yes.
Like, yeah, you may have an addiction problem. You may suffer from alcoholism when you drink, but you don't like. That's not an excuse, and that's not validation for you to go get effed up every weekend. Like, I don't believe in that. That's why I got out of AA, because it's a lot of feel sorry for myself, self-pity. And it actually makes you feel weaker leaving there.
Keep talking, because I'm looking for something I want to read to you. Talk a little bit more.
I feel like all that self-pity nonsense, like, and then for them to tell you, like, oh, you put your family through a lot, like, they can continue to treat you like shit for the rest of your life because, of what you did to them in the past. Like, no, eventually time heals, time should heal, and you should be able to move forward. And anybody that wants to treat you like shit because of stuff you did in your past, you need to move away from, because they're going to put you in a bad state of mind.
So,
I believe,
go ahead.
I believe in, making amends with those that you've hurt, but some people are going to accept your amends, some people aren't. You got to move forward.
That's right.
You're creating a new life for yourself. You're not trying to relive that old life.
So I can't find where I put it in here, but I'm going to tell you what's in here about disease. So guys, anyone who's sick and has a disease, but it's really a dis-ease of the brain cells. I have been all over the world on health tours through Lenox Hill Hospital back in the day. I went to Russia. I went to Asia. When I had guns pointed at me, okay, when it was still communist, I saw brains under microscopes. So I'm here to tell you this. It is a disease, but it's really a dis-ease of the brain cells that can be cured, okay? So what they're teaching us here is you have a disease for life and you're powerless over it. That's brainwashing you into you believing that forever, and that's what's going to keep you an addict. Because in this country, they don't make money on you if you're sober. They only make money on you if you're using, okay? Understand that. Do the research, guys. So I've been sober. I don't even use that term, okay? I changed my life 32 years ago. I've never, ever thought about it. I had a poker league in Mercer County, and we were in bars and restaurants every single night for 10 years. It was Midnight Owl Poker. I used to have to go outside and get my silly fools because they were smoking pot outside. Get your butts in here. I never, ever thought about ever using. It doesn't even affect me. So that's because I truly changed my life, and I made the decision to do so. So what Scotty just said is 1,000% right. It's not his opinion. It's not my opinion. It is a fact. So, again, I'm not telling anyone not to go to meetings because there are people out there who really don't have any other support system, right? But when you go, please don't get up there and say, hi, I'm Jerry, I'm an addict, and I'm powerless over my addiction of disease forever. It's not true. They're brainwashing you. You can get in touch with Scotty. You can get in touch with me. We're here to help you. Scotty, I'm going to give you the mic. You've got a couple more minutes. Say whatever it is you want to say, but then tell everyone how they can get in touch with you. Tell everyone about your show again, please.
You go on YouTube, Stepping Up, STEPPIN, up with WIT, Stuch, STUCH. That's on YouTube. I'm on Facebook, Scott Stuch. And I'm on Instagram under, I think they just changed the name. Instagram, I'm just under Scott Stuch as well. SCOTT, STUCH. You guys can inbox me, DM me, whatever. Always willing to help people. I never turn my back on somebody that wants to change their life for the better. Just here to, be the best version of me. And, if somebody doesn't have a problem, then you don't have a problem. But if you have a problem and you're looking for some support, I'm here for it. I don't charge anything. I like to help people.
Scotty, that's why I love you, man. I'm so glad I got to meet you, kid. Keep doing what you're doing. I admire you, and thank God that God brought you through this, because now you're here to help others. So Thank you so much for honoring me with this interview tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Okay, producer, take us out. And everybody share this video, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, Geri Petito.
I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.
When you don't know just what to do.
Just what to do, just what to do.
If what you're feeling is really true.
Is it really true? Is it really true?
Just keep your ideas safe and sound.
Safe and sound, safe and sound.
That's exactly how change is found.
Change is found, change is found. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. And in time, this too shall pass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Geri Petito taught the class. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. Loves the answer, the greener grass. I'm not an addict, I'm just an ass. One day at a time, free at last.